You're not tired because of people. You're tired because they won't leave your mind. Even when they're gone, even when everything is over, they're still there, replaying, repeating, controlling how you feel. And the worst part is, they're not doing anything to you anymore. Your mind is, every day, the same thoughts, the same memories, the same conversations playing again and again, draining your energy, stealing your peace, keeping you stuck in something that no longer exists. This is the truth most people never realize. It's not people that are hurting you anymore. It's the habit of holding on to them. So the real question is, if they're already gone, why is your mind still keeping them alive? Your mind is keeping people alive long after they are gone. There are people who are no longer part of your life, but somehow they are still living inside your mind. You remember their voice, the way they spoke to you, the way they made you feel. You go back to old conversations, replay old moments, think about what you should have said, or what they really meant. And the more you do this, the more real it starts to feel, as if nothing ever ended. But look closely. Nothing is actually happening right now. That person is not here. That moment is not happening. That situation is already over. The only place it still exists is inside your mind. And this is where the pain comes from. Not from what happened, but from what you keep repeating. Your mind keeps opening the same door again and again, and every time you walk through it, you feel the same emotions, the same heaviness, the same confusion. It feels fresh, but it is not. It is just the past playing on repeat. And the longer you stay in that loop, the more it feels like they never left you. But they did. It is your mind that is holding them. And here is the truth most people don't realize. You are not stuck because of them. You are stuck because you keep revisiting them. Every time you replay their words, you give them life again. Every time you think about what went wrong, you bring the past into the present. Every time you hold on to what is already gone, you stop yourself from moving forward. Peace does not come from changing what happened. Peace comes from stopping the replay. It comes from gently telling your mind, this is over. Not with anger, not with force, but with understanding. You don't need to go back there again. You don't need to solve it again. You don't need to carry it again. The past has already taken its moment. It does not need your present too. And the moment you stop feeding those memories, they slowly lose their power. They become quieter, lighter, more distant. Not because you forgot, but because you stopped giving them your energy. This is where real freedom begins. When you allow what is gone to stay gone. When you stop turning old memories into present pain. When you finally give yourself permission to move forward without carrying what already ended. And in that moment, something inside you becomes calm. Not because life is perfect, but because your mind is no longer holding on to what is already over. You are suffering from thoughts, not from reality. Right now, in this exact moment, pause for a second and look around you. Nothing is attacking you, nothing is hurting you, nothing is actually going wrong in front of you, and yet, inside your mind, it can feel heavy, tense, uncomfortable. Why? Because your suffering is not coming from what is happening. It is coming from what you are thinking. A thought appears, maybe about something someone said, maybe about something that might happen, maybe about something that already happened long ago. And the moment that thought appears, your body reacts, your chest feels tight, your mood drops, your mind starts racing, but nothing actually changed outside. only a thought appeared. This is the hidden trap of the mind. It creates something that feels real, and you instantly believe it without questioning it. A simple memory can make you feel pain again, even though the moment is over. A simple thought about the future can make you anxious, even though it has not happened. You follow these thoughts, the more real they feel. But here is the truth. A thought is just a thought. It is not a fact. It is not reality. It is not something you have to believe. It is simply something that appears and then disappears if you allow it to. The problem is, you don't allow it to disappear. You hold on to it. You analyze it. You react to it. You build more thoughts on top of it. And that is how a simple idea about someone can make you feel angry, even though they are not even there. And slowly, without realizing it, you start living inside your thoughts instead of living in reality. This is where most people lose their peace, not because life is always difficult, but because their mind is always active, always creating, always pulling them into something that is not actually happening. Your mind shows you a thought, and you follow it. Then another thought comes, and you follow that too. And before you know it, you are lost in a chain of thoughts that have taken you far away from the present moment, and the small thought turns into heavy suffering. But the moment you begin to see this clearly, something changes. You start noticing your thoughts instead of becoming them. You see a thought come, and instead of following it, you just observe it. You don't fight it. You don't try to push it away. You simply let it pass like a cloud moving across the sky, and slowly your mind begins to quiet down. The thoughts don't stop completely, but your reaction to them changes, and that changes everything. Because suffering does not come from thoughts alone, it comes from believing them, from reacting to them, from holding on to them. When you stop doing that, your mind becomes lighter, and in that lightness, you start to feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Calm. A calm that does not depend on people or situations or outcomes. A calm that comes from understanding that not everything your mind says deserves your attention. And in that understanding, your peace slowly returns, not all at once, but gently, quietly, like something that was always there, just waiting for you to stop chasing your thoughts. Every thought about them is giving them power over you. Every time someone comes into your mind, something very subtle happens, but very powerful. You may not notice it, but in that moment, you are giving them control over how you feel. Think about it. You remember someone, and suddenly your mood changes. Maybe you feel angry. Maybe you feel hurt. Maybe you feel empty. Maybe you feel anxious. But what actually happened right now? Nothing. They didn't say anything to you. They didn't do anything to you. They are not even in front of you. It was just a thought. And yet, that thought was enough to change your entire emotional state. This is how power works inside the mind. Not through real actions, but through repeated attention. The more you think about someone, the more space they take inside you. The more space they take, the more influence they have over your thoughts, your emotions, and even your decisions. And slowly, without realizing it, you start living in reaction to them, even when they are no longer part of your life. This is why you can't feel free, because you may have let them go in reality, but inside your mind, you are still holding on to them. Every time you replay what they said, you give them a voice again. Every time you remember what they did, you give them presence again. Every time you imagine them, you bring them back into your life. And the more you do this, the more it feels like they never left. But here is the truth. They only exist in your mind now. And the only thing keeping them there is your attention. Attention is energy. Whatever you give your attention to grows stronger inside you. If you keep feeding thoughts about someone, those thoughts become louder, more frequent, more powerful, and soon They begin to control your mood without you even noticing. But the moment you reduce your attention, everything starts to change. At first it feels difficult. Your mind keeps going back to them. It feels automatic, like you have no control. But slowly, with awareness, you begin to notice it. A thought comes, and instead of following it, you pause. You don't go deeper into it. You don't build more thoughts on top of it. You simply let it pass. And in that small moment, you take your power back. Because power was never in them. It was always in your attention. The less you feed those thoughts, the weaker they become. The less you replay them, the quieter they become. And over time, they stop controlling how you feel. Not because they changed, but because you stopped giving them control. This is the shift that changes everything. You stop asking, why did they do this? And you start asking, why am I still giving this my energy? And the moment you see this clearly, you begin to free yourself. Because real freedom is not when people stop affecting you. It is when your mind stops going back to them. When their name can appear and your heart stays calm. When their memory can come and your peace stays untouched. And in that moment, you realize something powerful. They only had power over you as long as you kept thinking about them. And now, you don't. Your mind is creating stories that are quietly hurting you. Your mind does not just remember what happened, it adds to it. It creates meaning. It builds explanations. It fills in gaps with its own ideas. And the dangerous part is, it does this so naturally, you don't even realize it is happening. You think you are seeing the truth, but most of the time you are only seeing a story your mind has created. Someone didn't reply to you and your mind says, they don't care. Someone acted differently and your mind says, something is wrong. Something ended and your mind says, it was all your fault. These are not facts. These are stories, but because they feel real, you believe them. And once you believe them, your emotions follow. You start feeling hurt, rejected, confused, anxious, not because of what actually happened, but because of what your mind is telling you about it. This is how small situations turn into deep pain, not because of reality, but because of interpretation. Your mind is always trying to make sense of things. It wants clear answers, clear reasons, something to hold on to. But when it doesn't have full information, it creates its own version of the truth. And most of the time, that version is negative because the mind is not designed to keep you peaceful. It is designed to keep you alert. It looks for problems. It assumes the worst. It tries to protect you by preparing you for pain, but instead, it creates pain. You start thinking about what others think of you. Even when you don't know, you assume their intentions. Even when they never told you, you create meaning behind their actions. Even when there may be none. And slowly, you get trapped in a story that only exists inside your mind. The more you repeat this story, the more real it feels. And the more real it feels, the more it controls how you feel. But here is the truth. Just because a thought feels true does not mean it is true. Your mind can be convincing, but it is not always correct. When you begin to see this, something powerful happens. You start questioning your thoughts instead of believing them. A thought appears, and instead of accepting it instantly, you pause. You ask yourself, is this really true? Or is this just a story my mind is creating? And in that small pause, space appears. Space between you and your thoughts. And in that space, your peace begins to grow. Because now, you are no longer controlled by every thought that enters your mind. You don't have to follow every story. You don't have to believe every idea. You don't have to carry every assumption. You can let it pass. And the more you do this, the quieter your mind becomes. The stories lose their power. The overthinking slows down. The emotional weight begins to lift. and you start to feel something different. Clarity. A clear mind that is not filled with imagined meanings, not trapped in false stories, not lost in assumptions, just simple, calm awareness of what is actually real. And in that clarity, you realize something deeply freeing. Most of the pain you were carrying was never real. It was just a story that you don't need to believe anymore. Your need for control is the reason you can't let go. Look deeper, and you will see something most people never notice. The reason you keep thinking about certain people is not because they are still in your life. It is because your mind is still trying to control what already ended. You want answers. You want clarity. You want to understand why it happened the way it did. You want things to make sense so your mind can finally feel at peace. But life does not always give you that. People leave without explaining. They change without warning. They act in ways you never expected. They walk away and you are left with questions that have no clear answers, and your mind cannot accept that. So it keeps going back again and again, trying to solve it like a problem. It replays conversations. It searches for hidden meanings. It imagines different outcomes. It tries to find one clear reason that will finally bring closure. But no matter how many times you go back, the answer never fully comes. Because the truth is, not everything in life is meant to be understood. And this is where your suffering begins. Not in what happened, but in your refusal to accept that you cannot control it anymore. The more you try to control the past, the more your mind stays stuck in it. The more you demand answers, the more restless you become. The more you try to fix what already ended, the more you lose your present moment. Control feels like safety, but in reality, it is the chain that keeps you attached. Letting go is not about forgetting. It is not about pretending nothing happened. It is not about forcing yourself to be okay. Letting go is something deeper. It is the moment you accept that you don't need every answer. It is the moment you stop asking, "Why did this happen?" and start saying, "It happened, and I allow it to be." It is the moment you stop chasing closure from people and start creating peace within yourself. Because real peace does not come from understanding everything. It comes from accepting that some things will never fully make sense, and that is okay. You don't need to control how people act. You don't need to control how things end. You don't need to control every outcome of your life. You only need to control one thing, where your mind chooses to stay. When you stop trying to control what is outside of you, your mind becomes lighter. The tension begins to fade. The constant thinking slows down. You are no longer fighting reality. You are flowing with it. And in that flow, there is peace. A quiet, steady peace that does not depend on answers, does not depend on people, does not depend on everything going your way. It comes from surrender, not a weak surrender, but a strong one. The kind where you say, "I release what I cannot control, and I choose my peace instead." And in that moment, something inside you relaxes. The grip loosens, the thoughts slow down, the need to go back disappears, and you realize something powerful. You were never stuck because of what happened. You were stuck because you were trying to control what was already gone. And now you don't need to anymore. You are paying for these thoughts with your peace. And sad, our desat, TV ich, spupul. Every time your mind goes back to the same person, the same memory, the same situation, something is being taken from you. Not loudly, not all at once, but slowly. Your peace, it does not feel like a payment, but it is. You lose a little calm, a little focus, a little energy. Every time you replay what is already over, You sit in a quiet moment, and instead of feeling at ease, your mind pulls you back into something that no longer exists. And suddenly, your body feels heavy, your thoughts feel crowded, your heart feels tired, and all of this from a single thought. This is the hidden cost most people never notice. They think they are just thinking, just remembering, just trying to understand. But in reality, they are paying with their peace again and again, without realizing how much it is costing them. A few minutes of overthinking and your mood changes. A few repeated memories and your energy drops. A few imagined scenarios, and your whole day feels different. And the more this repeats, the more it becomes a habit. Your mind starts going back automatically. Without your permission, it feels like you have no control, like the thoughts just take over. And because it feels normal, you don't question it. But you should, because every time you follow those thoughts, you are choosing to give your peace away. And here is the truth. Nothing in your past deserves your present peace. No person, no mistake, no moment. Your peace is too valuable to be traded for something that is already gone. And the moment you truly understand this, your relationship with your thoughts begins to change. You start noticing when your mind goes back. You catch the moment a thought begins to pull you in. You feel the shift before it takes over. And in that small moment of awareness, you have a choice. You can follow the thought, or you can let it pass. You don't need to fight it. You don't need to force it away. You don't need to argue with it. You simply don't give it your attention. You let it come and you let it go, without building anything around it. And slowly, something beautiful begins to happen. The thoughts lose their grip, the mind becomes quieter, the emotional weight starts to lift. Not because the thoughts completely disappear, but because you stop feeding them. And when you stop feeding them, they stop controlling you. This is how you take your peace back, not by changing the past, not by fixing everything, but by changing how you respond to what appears in your mind. You protect your attention, you protect your energy, you protect your peace, because now you understand the cost. And once you truly see the cost, you stop paying it so easily. You stop trading your calm for memories, you stop trading your present for the past, you stop giving your peace to thoughts that do not deserve it. And in that decision, repeated again and again, your mind becomes lighter, your heart becomes calmer, and your life begins to feel quiet, steady, and free again. Letting go is not about them. It is about your mind. Most people think letting go means something has to happen outside of them. They think the person has to change or apologize or come back and explain everything. They think closure must come from the other person. But this is where they stay stuck. Because real letting go does not begin with them. It begins with your mind. Someone can be completely out of your life and still live inside your thoughts every single day. You can be physically far from them, but mentally you are still attached. You are still replaying, still thinking, still feeling everything as if nothing ever ended. So even though they are gone, you are not free. Because letting go is not about distance. It is about detachment. It is about what is happening inside you, not outside you. You don't let go by forcing yourself to forget. You don't let go by pretending it didn't matter. You don't let go by pushing your feelings away. You let go by slowly changing how your mind holds onto it. You notice when your mind goes back, and instead of following it, you pause. You don't continue the story. You don't build on the memory. You don't dive deeper into it. You simply allow it to pass. At first it feels difficult. Your mind keeps pulling you back. It feels strong, automatic, like a habit you cannot break. But with time and awareness, that habit begins to weaken. Because every time you don't follow the thought, you loosen the attachment. Every time you don't replay the memory, you create distance. Every time you choose not to go back, you move forward. This is how letting go actually happens. Not in one big moment, but in many small decisions. Quiet decisions that no one sees, but that slowly change everything inside you. And one day, you notice something different. The thought still comes, but it does not affect you the same way. The memory appears, but it feels lighter. Their name crosses your mind, but your heart stays calm. This is when you realize you have let go, not because they gave you closure, not because everything made sense, but because your mind stopped holding on to them. And in that moment, you feel a deep kind of peace, a peace that is not forced, not temporary, not dependent on anything outside, a peace that comes from within. Because now, you are no longer tied to the past. You are no longer carrying what is already gone. You are no longer giving your energy to something that no longer deserves it. You are free. Free to think clearly. Free to feel lightly. Free to live in the present without being pulled back again and again. And the most powerful part of this is that nothing outside needed to change. The world stayed the same, but your mind finally let go, and that changed everything. The silence you avoid is the peace you need. When your mind finally begins to slow down, when the constant thinking starts to fade, something unexpected happens. It becomes quiet. And for most people, that quiet feels uncomfortable because you are not used to silence. You are used to noise. You are used to thoughts running all the time, memories playing, conversations repeating, emotions rising and falling. Your mind has been full for so long that when it becomes still, it feels strange, almost empty. So what do? You go back to thinking. You pick up your phone. You distract yourself. You start remembering things again. You look for something to fill that silence, not because you need it, but because you are not used to being without it. But what you don't realize is that silence you are avoiding is actually your peace. It is the natural state of your mind. Before it became crowded with unnecessary thoughts, before it got used to replaying people, chasing answers, holding on to things that no longer exist. That silence is not emptiness, it is space. Space where your mind can breathe, space where your heart can rest, space where nothing is pulling you, nothing is controlling you, nothing is demanding your attention. But because you are so used to mental noise, you mistake peace for emptiness. You feel like something is missing, but nothing is missing. For the first time, nothing is disturbing you, and that feeling is unfamiliar. That is why you try to escape it. But if you stay with it, if you allow that silence to exist without trying to fill it, something beautiful begins to happen. It starts to feel comfortable. Then, it starts to feel calming. Then it starts to feel like home. You begin to enjoy moments where nothing is happening inside your mind. You begin to sit without needing to think about anyone, without needing to go back to the past, without needing to imagine anything. And in those moments, you feel light, not because your life is perfect, but because your mind is no longer heavy. You realize that you don't need constant thoughts to feel alive. You don't need to replay people to feel connected. You don't need mental noise to feel occupied. You can simply be present, aware, calm. And that calm is something most people are searching for without realizing it is already available, hidden behind the noise they keep creating. The silence you avoid is not something to fear. It is something to return to, again and again. Because every time you allow yourself to sit in that silence, without escaping, without filling it, you strengthen your peace. You train your mind to stop depending on noise. You show yourself that calm is safe. You reconnect with a part of you that was always there, just covered by endless thinking. And slowly, that silence becomes your strength, a place you can return to, no matter what is happening outside. A place where no one can disturb you, no memory can control you, No thought can take you away, and in that silence, you finally understand something deeply powerful. Peace was never something you had to create. It was something you had to stop running away from. The moment you release them, you take your life back. There comes a quiet moment, not loud, not dramatic, where something inside you finally lets go. No big announcement, no final conversation, no perfect closure. Just a simple shift inside your mind. You stop going back, you stop replaying, you stop giving your attention to what is already gone. And in that moment, something powerful happens. You take your life back, because for so long, your life was not fully yours. Your thoughts were tied to people. Your emotions were controlled by memories. Your peace was dependent on things that already ended. Even when you tried to move forward, something kept pulling you back. But now, that pull is gone. Not because the past changed, not because people came back and fixed everything, but because you stopped holding on to them. You stopped carrying them in your mind. And when you stop carrying something, you finally feel how heavy it was. Suddenly, your thoughts feel lighter. Your chest feels open. Your mind feels calm in a way you haven't felt in a long time. You wake up, and your first thought is not about them. You go through your day, and your mind is not constantly drifting back. Their name can appear, and it no longer shakes your peace. This is freedom. Not the kind that comes from changing the world around you, but the kind that comes from changing what is happening inside you. Because now, your attention belongs to you again. You choose where your mind goes. You choose what deserves your energy. You choose what you carry and what you release. And that choice changes everything. You start noticing the present moment more clearly. The small things feel lighter, simpler, easier. You are no longer living in the past, and you are not lost in imagined futures. You are here, fully here, and in this moment, there is nothing to fix, nothing to replay, nothing to hold on to, just a quiet sense of being, a calm that stays without effort, a peace that does not depend on anyone. And the most beautiful part is you realize you did not lose anything by letting go. You gained yourself, the version of you that is not tied to memories, not controlled by thoughts, not affected by people who are no longer part of your life. A version of you that is free. Free to think clearly, free to feel deeply without being overwhelmed, free to live without carrying unnecessary weight. And in that freedom, life becomes simple again, not perfect, but peaceful, not empty, but calm, not controlled, but yours. And as you sit in that quiet, with nothing pulling you back, nothing disturbing your mind, you understand something deeply real. You were never meant to carry everyone with you. Some people were meant to pass through your life, not live inside your mind forever. And the moment you truly release them, you don't just move on, you finally come back to yourself. And now, just sit with this for a moment. All those thoughts, all those people, all those memories you were carrying, you don't have to carry them anymore. Nothing is asking you to go back. Nothing is asking you to replay. Nothing is asking you to hold on. You can simply let it be. Let the past stay where it belongs. Let people be who they are, without holding them inside your mind. Let your thoughts come and go without following every single one. You don't need to solve everything to feel peace. You don't need answers to finally be free. You just need to stop holding on to what is already over. And as you do that, gently, slowly, without force, you will notice something changing inside you. Your mind becomes quieter. Your heart becomes lighter. Your breathing becomes softer. And in that quiet, you find something you were always searching for. A simple, steady, peaceful presence. A place inside you where nothing is missing and nothing is chasing you. And maybe for the first time in a long time, you feel at ease. Not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer fighting your own mind. So from this moment, choose peace over replay. Choose presence over the past. Choose yourself over what is already gone. And trust this, the moment you stop letting people live in your head is the moment your life finally begins to feel like your own.